Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever said to yourself, if I just had more time, I could finally get it all done? That feeling of constantly chasing the clock, running on empty, juggling task after task, yet still feeling unaccomplished at the end of the day. Let's get real. You don't need more hours in the day. You need more clarity, more stillness, more focus. In this message, we're going to uncover the truth behind your time scarcity, show you how scattered attention is quietly draining your potential, and guide you back to the centered, focused self that's been waiting to take the reins of your life. Every day, the sun rises and sets with precision. It gives us the same 24 hours, the same rhythmic gift of time, whether we are rich or poor, inspired or exhausted, clear or confused. Time does not discriminate. It flows the same for every soul on this earth, and yet we look up at the sky, sighing with the weight of all we didn't get done, blaming time for our exhaustion. We say, there's just not enough of it. We convince ourselves that life would be different, easier, more fulfilling if only we had a few more hours. But the truth, the real unfiltered truth, is that time isn't the problem. Clarity is. It's not a lack of hours that's eating away at your progress. It's the absence of direction. You can wake up early, go to bed late, fill every minute of your schedule with activity, and still go to bed with that hollow feeling of unfinished business. Why? Because motion is not the same as progress. Busyness is not the same as purpose. Without clarity, your energy becomes scattered, your focus becomes fragmented, and your days become diluted. You move, but you don't move forward. You act, but you don't create impact. Clarity is the compass of your life. Without it, you're not navigating, you're drifting. Think of how many times you've said yes to something, not because it aligned with your deepest desires, but because it showed up loud enough to get your attention. You get swept into obligations, into distractions disguised as opportunities, into urgency that belongs to someone else. This is what happens when you live without clarity. You become reactive instead of intentional. You spend your days chasing instead of choosing. When you're not clear, the world makes your decisions for you. The emails become your priority. The opinions of others shape your path. The loudest voice in the room drowns out your own inner wisdom. You become a passenger in your own life, wondering why you're exhausted, yet unable to explain what exactly drained you. That's the cost of confusion. It steals your time, not by taking your hours, but by convincing you to waste them. You don't need more time. You need to know what your time is for. Imagine two people standing at the start of the day with equal hours ahead of them. One knows exactly what they value, what they're building, what truly matters to their soul. The other is unsure, distracted, scattered. The difference in how they experience the same 24 hours is profound. One ends the day fulfilled, the other ends it fatigued. And yet, the clock ticked the same for both. Clarity simplifies everything. When you're clear on your mission, your priorities become self-evident. You stop needing to make 100 decisions each day because most of them are already answered by your vision. You stop asking, what should I do next? And start asking, does this align with who I'm becoming? That question alone can save you years of misdirection. This is not just about goals. This is about essence. When you are clear on who you are, you stop being pulled by who others think you should be. You stop bending yourself to fit into spaces that don't honor your truth. You stop pouring your time into things that don't nourish your spirit. Clarity brings a fierce kind of peace. Not loud or boastful, but steady and unwavering. It allows you to move through life with calm conviction, not rushing, not reacting, but choosing, consciously, powerfully, fully awake. So many people fear slowing down because they think it will rob them of progress. But here's the paradox. The fastest way to move forward is to stop and ask yourself, why am I moving in the first place? Without that pause, you risk spending years climbing a ladder only to find it's been leaning against the wrong wall. That's the cost of a life lived without clarity. You may reach the top, but it won't feel like success. It will feel like emptiness. because accomplishment without alignment is not fulfillment. It's burnout in disguise. Clarity isn't something you find in the noise. It's something you uncover in stillness. It's already within you, waiting for you to stop long enough to listen. It doesn't come through force, but through presence. When you quiet the external world, when you release the need to impress, when you surrender the urge to do it all, that's when your truth begins to rise, not in chaos, but in silence. That inner voice that's been drowned out by your busyness will finally have room to speak. And when it does, it won't ask for more time. It will ask for your attention, because clarity doesn't just change how you use your time. It changes how you see your time. It makes you realize that every moment is either an investment or an expense. You're either aligning with your calling or drifting from it. There's no in between. Time becomes sacred, not because you have more of it, but because you finally see what it's meant for. And when you do, your days stop feeling rushed. They start feeling aligned. That's the hidden truth so many overlook. They keep chasing systems, schedules, time hacks, hoping to squeeze more out of the day. But the real shift, the one that actually transforms your life, comes not from having more time, but from finally seeing clearly what that time is here to serve. In this universe, governed by unseen laws and subtle vibrations, there exists a quiet principle that shapes everything you create, everything you become, and everything you allow to stay in your life. That principle is simple yet deeply powerful. Your energy flows wherever your attention goes. It is not time that moves your life forward. It is not effort alone. It is not how hard you push or how many hours you grind. It is what you focus on that determines what comes alive. Energy does not follow effort. Energy follows focus. And wherever your attention rests, life expands in that direction. Your attention is not just a mental process, it is a spiritual contract. Every time you give something your focus, you are silently telling the universe, "This matters to me. I want more of this." And the universe listens. Without fail, it begins to multiply whatever you are dwelling on, whether that thing nourishes you or depletes you. That is the sacred responsibility of your awareness. It is not passive. It is a creative force. So the question becomes, what are you energizing in your life without even realizing it? Most people spend their days pulled in a dozen directions at once. Their thoughts are fragmented. Their presence is divided. They bounce from one idea to another, one app to another, one emotional reaction to the next, never landing fully in the moment they're living. And yet they wonder why they feel tired, overwhelmed, uninspired. It's because every time you split your focus, you are leaking energy. You may not feel it immediately, but over time, that kind of scattered awareness becomes spiritual exhaustion. You're not just mentally distracted, you are energetically drained. Your life is always mirroring the quality of your attention. When you're focused on what's wrong, you create more stress. When you're consumed by what you lack, you generate more scarcity. When you fixate on the opinions of others, you lose the power to direct your own inner voice. But the same law applies in the opposite direction too. When you place your attention on gratitude, more things show up to be grateful for. When you focus on growth, opportunities begin to appear. When you center your thoughts on peace, chaos begins to dissolve. The shift doesn't come from changing your circumstances, it comes from changing what you're focusing on. Focus is a choice, but it's also a practice. It's easy to be focused when there are no distractions, but life doesn't work like that. Life is full of noise, temptations, urgent messages, endless demands. Focus, then, is not the absence of distraction. It is the discipline of return, the ability to come back to your center over and over again, no matter how many times your attention is pulled away. That discipline is where energy consolidates. That's where your power becomes aligned. The mind, when untrained, behaves like a wild horse. It runs wherever it pleases, into fear, into the past, into imagined futures, into things that don't serve your highest good. But when you start to direct it with intention, your thoughts begin to slow down. Your inner world becomes quieter. Your energy, once dispersed, begins to gather. And in that gathering, there is power. Not forceful, chaotic power, but a calm, steady power that can build anything. That kind of focused energy is the seed of all creation. Every invention, every great work, every healing journey began with that quiet, focused attention. When you learn to guard your attention, your life becomes more deliberate. You begin to see through the illusions of urgency. Not everything deserves your focus. Not everything is meant to be reacted to. Just because something is loud does not mean it's important. Just because something is popular does not mean it's meant for you. And just because something is happening in the world does not mean you are obligated to carry it in your heart. Focus is the boundary you draw between what you allow to shape you and what you release to protect your energy. Your energy is sacred. It is the fuel for your dreams, your healing, your purpose, and you only have so much of it each day. So when you give your attention to things that do not uplift, inspire, or align with your truth, you are spending the most valuable resource you have on things that will never give you a return. That is not just inefficient, it is spiritually expensive. There is a cost to every scroll, every complaint, every unexamined worry, but there is also a reward to every moment of stillness, every act of presence, every thought you choose with care. Focus creates momentum. When you consistently put your attention on something meaningful, you begin to build energy around it. That energy grows. It starts to attract more thoughts, people, and circumstances that support your focus. That is not magic, that is alignment. The more energy you direct into a single point of attention, the more powerful your impact becomes. You don't need to do everything, you just need to fully commit to the one thing that truly matters in this moment. The most magnetic people you know, the ones who walk into a room and change the atmosphere, are not necessarily the most talented or the most accomplished. They are simply present, fully present. Their energy is not scattered, it's grounded. Their attention is not diluted, it's directed. That is what makes them feel powerful, because their presence isn't divided across 1,000 things. It's whole. That kind of presence is available to you at any moment, the moment you decide to withdraw your energy from the distractions and give it back to what truly deserves it. Your life becomes what you repeatedly focus on. Your thoughts become habits. Your habits become your reality. If you want to shift your life, you don't need more time. You don't need to move faster. You simply need to bring your attention back to what matters, again and again, until what you focus on starts to shape who you are becoming. There is a deeply rooted myth that has taken hold of our modern culture, a myth so convincing, so widely accepted, that it is rarely questioned. It whispers into your mind, especially in moments of overwhelm, telling you that the key to getting ahead is to do more at once. That if you just learn how to juggle everything better, you'll finally find balance. It promises that multitasking is the answer. But this myth is not a tool, it's a trap. Multitasking does not make you more efficient. It does not elevate your results. It fractures your presence, divides your awareness, and steals the sacred power of your focus. The human mind was not designed to split itself across tasks. You can toggle, you can switch, you can flip between things rapidly, but you cannot be fully present in more than one place at a time. True attention is singular. It is not designed to be shared. When you try to do 2 or 3 or 5 things at once, what you're really doing is rapidly shifting your focus back and forth. And every time you shift, there is a cost, a cognitive cost, an emotional cost, an energetic cost. It's not just inefficient, it's draining. Your brain must reorient, refocus, recalibrate each time you move from one thought to another. That hidden toll accumulates quietly until it begins to show up as fatigue, stress, anxiety, burnout. People often confuse busyness with productivity. They think that the more plates they spin, the more they're accomplishing. But movement is not the same as progress. You can be busy from morning until night, multitasking every step of the way, and still feel like nothing truly got done. That's because multitasking scatters your energy across so many directions that no single effort gains enough momentum to truly move forward. You end the day tired, not fulfilled, drained, not inspired. The illusion of accomplishment fades when you realize you were everywhere, but not fully anywhere. True creativity, deep problem solving, and meaningful work only emerge in spaces of undivided attention. When your mind is still, focused, immersed in a single act, something powerful happens. Time stretches, clarity deepens, insight rises. The mind becomes a vessel, not a battlefield. In that space, your efforts are not just more efficient, they are more profound. That level of presence allows you to pour your essence into what you are doing, instead of just checking things off a list. That kind of presence turns simple tasks into acts of devotion. It transforms ordinary moments into sacred ones. Multitasking is born out of a belief that you are running out of time, that if you don't do more right now, you will fall behind. But this is a fear-based pattern, not a truth-based one. The need to juggle everything at once stems from a deeper anxiety, that you must constantly prove your worth through output, that slowing down is weakness, that presence is a luxury you cannot afford. But in reality, the slower path is often the wiser one. When you give yourself fully to one thing, that one thing gives you its full return. Multitasking, by contrast, offers you only fragments. It is not only the outer tasks that suffer from multitasking, it is also your inner state. When your mind is divided, your emotional clarity blurs. You struggle to hear your intuition. You lose your groundedness. You become reactive instead of responsive. Your nervous system stays activated, caught in a low-grade state of survival. You are not at peace, not centered, not in flow. And the longer you stay in this fragmented state, the further you drift from the deeper intelligence within you, the kind of intelligence that only speaks when there is quiet, the kind that reveals solutions not through force, but through insight. There is something deeply nourishing about giving your full attention to one thing. It brings order to your mind and integrity to your energy. It builds trust within yourself because you are no longer betraying your own rhythm. When you say to yourself, I will be here with this one thing fully, you are making a sacred promise, and when you keep that promise moment after moment, your focus becomes a practice. Your life becomes less about doing everything and more about doing the right things, deeply, with presence and purpose. We have been conditioned to think that multitasking is necessary in a world that never stops moving, but perhaps the world is moving too fast, not because it must, but because we've forgotten how to be still. We've forgotten that our greatest power is not in how much we can do, but in how deeply we can give ourselves to what we choose to do. When we multitask, we live on the surface of life, but when we focus, we sink into the depth of it. And it is in the depth, not the speed, where true transformation happens. You don't need to be faster. You don't need to stretch yourself thinner. What you truly need is to reclaim your right to be fully where you are with one thought, one task, one breath at a time. Not scattered, not rushed, but rooted. Because when your attention is whole, your energy is whole. And when your energy is whole, your actions begin to align not just with what's urgent, but with what's sacred. In a world that endlessly glorifies more ambition, more information, more goals, more doing, we rarely pause to honor the sacred power of less. But the truth that most people are afraid to face is this: you will never master your life by trying to do everything. You will master it by learning what to ignore. Discipline at its core is not just about willpower or effort, it is about direction. It is about clarity so strong that it becomes a filter. It is about being ruthlessly intentional with what gets your energy and what doesn't. Because every time you say yes to something, you are also saying no to something else. And without discipline, your yeses will be given away to what is urgent instead of what is important. Discipline is not about force, it's about alignment. It is not the rigid enforcement of schedules or the cold punishment of laziness. Real discipline is a warm, grounded commitment to what truly matters. It is the voice within you that says, I do not need to be everywhere. I only need to be exactly where I am meant to be. In that space, you begin to see how much of your life has been given away to the unnecessary, the opinions you tried to please, the notifications you reacted to, the fears you catered to, the habits that slowly eroded your energy. All of them felt small in the moment, but over time they shaped your entire direction. What if you are not overwhelmed because you have too much to do, but because you have too little discipline in what to ignore? What if the exhaustion you feel is not from doing too much, but from doing too many things that don't actually matter to you? The weight you carry is not just the result of your responsibilities. It is the accumulation of distractions that you didn't choose, but allowed to linger. Every piece of clutter in your mental space, every unnecessary obligation, every open loop, these are the silent thieves of your peace. And discipline is how you reclaim it. Discipline is not a punishment, it's a path back to freedom. When you stop trying to do everything, you start doing the right things well. You start showing up for your life fully with presence and intention. You begin to pour your energy into the things that feed you instead of the things that deplete you. You learn that every boundary you create is not a rejection, it is an act of self-respect. Saying no is not selfish when it protects what is sacred within you. It is not cold, it is courageous. There is a stillness that lives inside discipline, not the stillness of inaction, but the stillness of certainty. The quiet knowing that you are walking in alignment with what you value and that nothing outside of you needs to validate that path. You no longer need to prove, to perform, to please. You simply need to return over and over to what you know is true for you. Discipline is that returning. It is the spiritual muscle that allows you to walk away from distraction and toward depth, to turn down the noise of the world and turn up the volume of your inner voice. It is easy to think that disciplined people are the ones who are always grinding, always pushing, always striving. But real discipline often looks like simplicity. It looks like fewer commitments, clearer mornings, undisturbed time. It looks like choosing to read instead of scrolling, choosing silence instead of chaos, choosing rest instead of burnout, choosing depth over speed. These aren't dramatic decisions, but they are powerful ones because they create the space for you to become someone you actually recognize, someone you trust. There is so much strength in choosing what not to engage with. When you stop reacting to every impulse, every craving, every distraction, you begin to cultivate space within yourself. That space becomes a sanctuary. It becomes a place where your thoughts can breathe, where your heart can speak, where your dreams can find room to unfold. But that space doesn't appear on its own. It is carved with discipline. Each act of restraint is a declaration that you are not available for what does not align. And from that declaration, declaration, a new life begins to take shape, one of purpose, presence, and power. Many people think they need motivation to be disciplined, but motivation is fleeting. It is affected by mood, environment, energy. Discipline is deeper than that. Discipline is devotion. Devotion to your growth, devotion to your clarity, devotion to your peace. It is not reactive. It is intentional. It doesn't wait for inspiration. It moves from commitment, and the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. Not because it gets easier, but because it becomes who you are. You become someone who chooses what matters over what tempts. Someone who does not just react to life, but creates it moment by moment through focused attention and deliberate choice. Discipline teaches you that you don't need to chase every opportunity to succeed. You only need to respond to the ones that are aligned with your purpose. It teaches you that rest is not laziness and silence is not weakness. It shows you that mastering your life is not about conquering everything around you. It's about mastering the space within you, the space where your thoughts form, where your energy gathers, where your intentions live. That inner space is the source of everything you create, and discipline is what keeps it clean, clear, and sacred. We live in a world obsessed with time, chasing it, managing it, fearing we never have enough of it. But the deeper truth is this: time has never been the issue. The real challenge lies within the mind that is scattered, the attention that is unfocused, and the energy that is constantly pulled in every direction. When you understand this, everything begins to shift. You stop blaming the clock and start reclaiming your focus, because focus is the gateway to clarity, to energy, to purpose. It is how you begin to move with intention instead of exhaustion, with direction instead of distraction. Clarity is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Without it, your time is swallowed by things that don't belong to your path. But with clarity, even a single hour holds power. When you know what truly matters, you stop wasting time on what doesn't. Your attention becomes sacred. Your energy becomes aligned. Your life begins to simplify, not because you're doing less, but because you're finally doing what matters most. Multitasking may promise speed, but it robs you of presence. And presence is where transformation lives. The more you split your attention, the more diluted your power becomes. But when you give yourself fully to one thing, just one thing, you invite depth, peace, and progress. Your focus becomes your offering, your discipline becomes your devotion, and your presence becomes the force that shapes your life. Discipline, then, is not about pressure, it is about peace. It is the conscious act of letting go of the noise, of choosing what aligns with your purpose, and of protecting your focus like it is the most precious thing you own, because it is. Discipline isn't about doing more. It's about doing less with more love, more purpose, more presence. You don't need more hours in the day. You need to honor the hours you already have. You need to turn your